All right, everybody, let's do this. Growing up without a dad. I was just cracking up a few seconds ago to myself. What a topic to try to talk about in like 10 minutes. We'll get some stuff out. I just wanted to touch on it. I think a lot of us share this. Obviously, there's a lot of kids growing up without dads for various reasons. Mine left, I guess, when I was like 5, 6-ish. But even that story is like murky. I mean, I don't know what happened really. I don't have that many memories. I remember having a sort of bye when we moved away. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about some impacts, maybe. I think there were lots of impacts, and for many, many years, I don't think we definitely didn't talk about it. We didn't think about impacts, like how this changed my siblings or me, how it changed us, because it definitely did. Obviously, it impacted us. And now, since I have two kids, and one is about the age when this stuff was going down in my life. So I just can't even, like, if I was not here anymore, imagining what it would be like for her. Yeah, for me, number one, obviously, is just like the hurt that resulted out of this. I mean, just the pain of not having a dad when you're little, and and he was around when you were born, and and you liked having him around, and it was nice. I loved my dad. My dad treated me well. For the most part, and when we were together. And then suddenly, it was probably not so sudden, actually, in reality, but it felt sudden. When it was actually, like, over, he wasn't there anymore. So, yeah, you could call it trauma for sure. I mean, how is that not trauma when you're little and one of your parents goes away? Then, I would say confusion. Oh my goodness, like, how is a little child supposed to work any of this out? What was I supposed to do with this? Like, the stories, the explanations coming from my mom, or even maybe from my siblings. When I was like 5, 6, 7, and even after that, trying to make sense of it, with all the emotions flying around, how on earth? Like, that's not going to happen. So just such deep confusion, and trying to figure things out, I guess. So I think one of the impacts could be that I, even currently, always wanted to, like, figure things out. And this was maybe one of the earliest thing I wanted to figure out, or the thing I was like, what the heck? What happened? This interpersonal thing between my parents. And why on earth was this happening? What the heck? But when you mix in all the emotions and the, like, hurt and everything around it, it gets so messed up. I mean, you're not going to have perspective on it as a child, as a kid. You really need that to come from somewhere else, someone who has some perspective, and that perspective probably isn't going to be very present in your other parent either. Like, looking back on it, like my mom's perspective on the thing, I don't think I buy into it completely these days. But that's the one that we got. It's the only input that we had. I didn't have some uncles telling me their version of the story, or frankly anybody else telling me their version of the story. I had one, and that was my mom's. And I learned her way of dealing with this huge thing that happened. And yeah, it was maybe not the best. It was maybe not the best way to handle it. Let's just put it that way. So, yeah. Another thing, I guess, another huge impact is I missed out on this second huge viewpoint that my dad had and has to offer. Like, I had one viewpoint, and, like, now the way I look at it, the more viewpoints are present in your life that you can actually, like, connect with in a real way. I'm not talking about the millions of viewpoints on the internet. I'm talking about in your core family and group, or whatever that group looks like. The more the better. Because, man, I needed some different perspective on this. I'll just speak for myself here. I had a limited perspective that kept me very caged for years and years and years, till I was like 24, maybe. So for 20 years, I had a narrative that then I challenged, when I was like 24. When I contacted my dad again, and things didn't go the way that my old narrative would have predicted. Let's just say that. It went a lot better. But missing out, man, oh my goodness. Like, having just my mom's perspective, like, growing up and not being able to ask, like, my dad questions about what was happening in my life. I mean, it's just mind-boggling what is missed out on there. Incredible. Another thing, no example of healthy relationship in my house growing up. There's just one parent. There's no example of two people living together, working things out together. How do you manage stuff? It's one-sided. So that completely just single. So that makes me think too, I wonder where I got my, like, need or thinking that I can just handle everything on my own. Like, I wonder where that came from. Maybe because I watched my mom do it for like 20 years. Longer than that. Handling everything completely on her own. It's happening on a daily basis. I know this from my life now, like the juggling that happens always, the negotiating every moment, like when you're raising kids, like, oh my goodness. If there's just one, the kids don't see any of that. So oh my God, I think I could go on forever. This is crazy. Feelings aside, the pain aside, you miss out on so much learning that you need later, that comes in very handy later. Because then when I was in a relationship, I didn't know how to do it, I didn't, winging it completely. Maybe the last thing I'll say is it just, like, So yeah, not having the second viewpoint, but it put a huge overemphasis on my relationship with my mom, right? Because she was the only one. So huge overemphasis. No second person to go to when she was unavailable. No, yeah, no counter to her very strong viewpoint. So I remember later when I had to like learn basically how to even accept other people's viewpoints. That comes in part from this too, I'm sure. And it took like a loving relationship where I loved someone enough to have her viewpoint actually like enter my consideration of stuff. Like that's kind of what it took, and it was much later. Um, it's just so narrow. I grew up with a very narrow, very insular, isolated kind of vibe. And one of the reasons was probably just having a single parent, one parent. So yeah, okay. I mean, I guess this is going to turn into some kind of series because there's lots to talk about. And I know there are a lot of you out there who grew up somehow with just one parent. In any case, that came out how it did. I hope it was useful to somebody. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.